China's recent test of a nuclear-capable hypersonic missile took the Pentagon by surprise. Beijing was able to fire a missile from a hypersonic glide vehicle as it traveled at least 5 times the speed of sound. Retired Air Force 4-star General Hawk Carlisle is former commander of Air Combat Command. He's currently president and CEO of the National Defense Industrial Association. General, welcome back to the program.
Mimi, thanks. It's great to see you. I appreciate the opportunity to chat about this.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, called the test very concerning and very close to being a Sputnik moment. Do you agree with that?
Very concerning, most definitely. It's hugely concerning. I think the Sputnik moment, to some extent, is true. Although, China is pretty open about writing what they're trying to do, what they'd like to do to us. They've studied us for the past 20 years. They know our strategic strengths and our operational strengths and weaknesses. And everything they do is designed to counter those. So the idea that they would go after our missile defense capability in a way that is very difficult to counter, it's kind of what you would expect from China and what they're trying to do.
So does this test mean that China could more easily hit the U.S. mainland with a nuclear weapon? I mean, does the U.S. have the missile defense capability to stop one of these Chinese hypersonic missiles?
So that's the problem. Strategically, if you look at one of these that goes into orbit, the boost glide and how it goes into orbit, you become threatened at 360 degrees all the way around you. It could come, usually in the past, certainly when we faced Russia, the missile defense, most of the missiles that Russia would shoot at us would come over the north, over the pole. So you could align your missile defense capability that way. With this capability that the Chinese demonstrated, the missile could come from anywhere. So yeah, it is a huge challenge to our missile defense system, especially as speed really constricts your ability to react. And then you have the added challenge that we're not prepared for, and that is it can come from anywhere of 360 degrees. And that is a huge challenge to our missile defense system.
So which service or services should take the lead, particularly on defensive hypersonic weapons technology?
So I think one of the first things you have to do is you have to know it's coming, right? So I think our sensor system and our ability to determine what's happening, right now we have the ability to determine infrared systems through SIBRs. And then space tracking is going to be critical. So clearly on the sensor and understanding what's coming at us, the Space Force would be a huge player. And then, I think there's a ground element, a potential space element, depending on space capability and space weapons. And so again, it's a joint problem, and that's why the Missile Defense Agency is a joint agency. So clearly, I think all services have a huge part in being able to defend the United States against ballistic missiles and hypersonic missiles.
So, General, what does this mean strategically in the U.S.'s great power competition with China, that they're clearly ahead in hypersonics technology?
Well, as we said at the outset, Mimi, it's extremely concerning to us. And as General John Hyten, the retiring Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said, this really does kind of look like a first strike capability. And the fact that the Chinese have fielded it, they are ahead of us. It's hugely concerning. And I think strategically, it does bode ill in that it certainly looks to be a first strike capability. And, it's already very difficult to determine the Chinese intentions other than they want to replace the United States across the board.
Do you think the Defense Department is moving as fast as it can in developing and deploying hypersonic technology?
So, we're unfortunately hamstrung a little bit with our process, in the PPBE process, planning, program, budgeting, and execution. That's a McNamara 60s era resourcing. So we do have to get faster. As General C.Q. Brown, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, said, we have to accelerate change or we risk losing. And so I think our ability to react fast, to field technology fast, to be able to really get the leading edge capability, to be less risk averse and accept some failure and some risk in trying to get to these new technologies. So are we moving as fast as we need to? Not even close. Are we moving as fast as we can under the current system? Yeah, but the system has to change. We have to get better and faster.
So what are we, what's going to be happening, General? What are we looking at as far as advancements in Chinese technology and hypersonics and our ability to counter that?
Well, I'm a glass half full kind of guy a little bit. So I still believe that the American people and American entrepreneurship and innovators are the best in the world, along with our friends, partners, and allies. And so I still think that, you look at the commercial sector and the United States still is innovators and entrepreneurs and coming up with solutions that nobody could have thought of before and filling challenges. That's an inherent capability of a free, liberal, democratic society. And I still think we can do that. I think sometimes the government is difficult because, it is taxpayer dollars. So you have to be cognizant of that. But we've got to get better at accepting some level of risk, moving quicker, and taking advantage of the innovative spirit that exists in the American people.
All right. Well, General Carlisle, of course, we're going to be talking about this much more in the future, but thanks so much for joining us.
It was great talking to you, Mimi. Happy Thanksgiving.